if you're correct in that, then there's some changes that have to be made.
You just took the
Wife.
whole thing. Ruined the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Like, she's come to get me.
I'll make a motion to go out of closed session and reconvene the public meeting.
I second it.
Have a motion from Commissioner Newton and a second from Commissioner Blocker. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, we are back in session. And you hung out. Wow, good for you. Well, we could hear you laughing, so we
That's Jeremy. Jeremy's a good one.
assumed.
Jeremy was giggling.
That was Jeremy laughing?
All right.
I think it was Kate.
Are you ready for a motion on portfolio?
I am.
assignments?
I am.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the portfolio assignments as listed with the following changes. COG voting member under Commissioner Fackrell to be removed so that we only have 2 voting COG members. Recreation primary to move under myself, Commissioner Newton, and
No,
I'm sorry, extension primary to move under myself. Recreation alternate to move under Chair Wilson, and Commissioner Nickerson to be moved from recreation alternate to recreation primary.
I met, talked to Beaver County. What's her name? Tammy. She said normally we would have, we would need an appointed commissioner for Utah PLC, but she says we won't need that unless we need to vote on something, and then we can just appoint someone.
Okay.
Alternate Wilson for rec, Nickerson primary, COG, so who's our third vote?
Because we're 5 commissions, that would make a quorum.
So I think we need to talk more because because I read it today somewhere, and I don't know if it was in the packet, but it says that there's 3 members from the county, 3 from the city, and 1 from the school, right? Oh, it's 333.
Yep, it is, oh, sorry, it helps if I turn my mic on, sorry. It's
but
Steve
anyway,
Gale, Tony
that is a
Lupton, Jeffrey
quorum
Richens.
that we would have
For the city.
the commission at all of those.
Angie Treese, Kelly Priest, and Andy, the superintendent for the school.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I do remember that for the school.
But yeah, we have the mayor and 2 city councilmen, 2 school board members, the school superintendent, Raylene Vaughn, and then a 3rd seat.
So I think we just need to figure that out because then it would, every COG meeting would also be a quorum of the commission,
Well, they are publicly noticed.
but not as a commission meeting.
Maybe what we need
And
to do
so-
then is change it so that everybody gets 2 instead of 3.
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah, 9 people is a lot to.
Okay, can you,
So let's review those documents and just see if there needs to be a change made.
oh, he must have turned this back on. Okay.
okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Newton.
Second?
Second from Commissioner Nickerson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion passes as unanimous.
I had a request that when I post this, like on the board, that the commissioners' phone numbers be on it. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah. And
Our website anyway.
help me remember that if we go over
9:30.
9:30,
Extension of the rules.
we're barely over tonight, thank goodness. Thanks, everybody, for coming and participating and being prepared. Do we want to go over, does anybody have anything stressing that they need to share?
For Commissioner Hunter?
Commissioner comments, yes.
Do
Okay?
one under the legislative stuff, if you don't mind.
No? If it's important, we want to hear it.
Well, it kind of is. Okay, I sent you guys an email last week on, is that bill number written? You wanted to put input on it. No, I can't remember what it was. But it had to do, oh, it's probably, no, it wasn't that one. It had to do with the riverbeds and public access. That's what
Oh,
it was.
that's right.
The public access
Yes.
one.
386,
386, okay.
HB.
HB 386.
Yeah.
Okay, so Raylene and I are the only ones that are attending that one in particular, and we've been on it. Is there anything that you would like us to bring before them as opposing or approving or monitoring, or what would you like? Do you understand what's going on with that bill?
Back took the opposed position, correct?
Yes, no.
Monitoring now.
They're
Oh,
monitoring
they're
it now.
monitoring now?
Yeah, they changed it to
Since
monitoring.
they
Opposed it.
they opposed it, but they got changed and
Yeah.
then they monitored it.
Yes, it got
Correct.
changed, and now they're monitoring it. So it's up to you guys if you want.
Can you explain the changes?
I can't disagree.
I mean, I think we want to protect the owner's property rights. At the same time, it's such a delicate line to balance on that. I think that's going to be a hard one.
I was opposed to the initial
First one.
version. I haven't seen the changes.
They were working on it, so with the further updates tomorrow that I get from it all.
Just know.
Okay. I'll send you an email like right here.
I mean, maybe you can explain something to me since I don't go down there a lot.
Okay.
But what control do we have? Do we do it through Carrie? Do we?
No. On these, it's more of the policy steering committees, and it's us that are talking to UAC and as a whole group. And in that procedures, or what we're doing, is we're basically sitting down at the workstation and discussing these bills, and they go through the changes, and that way we can see those changes. And then afterward, they give us a chance to vote on them, whether or not we agree with it or not agree with it. And that's basically what it is. And I mean, if we have strong concerns about a part of it, we can bring it up and discuss it. And like this one, the 386, the opposition there was a 10-year limit. If you didn't use it after 10 years, then the prescriptive easement went away. And so that was a problem, but we continued to use that easement in our case. Wasatch County was completely against it. And in our case, in our county, it would be something that can actually benefit us. There's also a provision in it that says that we have 3 feet from the boundary line into their property that is incidental. And so where he's saying, the one we're talking about is that that area is, I have to be sensitive on that. Where that area is where he's claiming all that area is his. Incidental touching was still in the law, to where you could be incidental touching on the property. And it was to our benefit to keep that law in place for that one reason. Otherwise, it could be completely shut off, even though that's not a navigable waterway. But it goes back to the 1896 rule, when they were made a state, that if it was a navigable waterway at that point, then it would remain that way. So now, what is the navigableness? And that's where it comes into that question.
and the navigability of that portion has not been determined. It doesn't mean that it's not navigable. It just hasn't been litigated to the Utah Supreme Court to determine by a showing of evidence. And navigability, there's historical data about running logs down the river, things of that nature,
Getting across.
but it's very specific to the areas. And in talking with like the division of the AG's office with DNR, DWR, they don't necessarily want the navigability. I mean, I think it takes away some of the fight because we just know whether it's navigable or not. But there's consequences for that as well, where now no private landowner can own the riverbed either. And so it's not that it's not navigable, it just hasn't been determined.
Are they saying that a person then could enter the water and walk up and down the river and not be trespassing? Is that?
No. And so the navigability, oh, okay, yeah.
If they don't own the waterbed.
That's right, yeah. And so it would be the state that would own the waterbed.
But if you got out on the bank, immediately you're trespassing.
That's right. But currently, right now, if it is private and there's incidental touching, then it's allowed. But that doesn't mean I can just go wade and be standing or playing in the water. I'm floating because water is public and I can float. As long as I'm floating, I'm good. As soon as I stand up and start walking around, it's not okay unless I'm just exiting the river. It's an incidental touching, or I'm trying to keep myself from drowning or whatever it might be.
So that was one of the conditions. I mean, in the bill itself, they don't change a lot. On line 86 of the bill, it says a person may access or use a public water on private property for any lawful purpose. And these are the additions. Only when the person establishes clear and convincing evidence the existence of an easement established under section 73-29-203. So that's the addition to the current bill. And the other one is and this is further on, number 3, a person may not access or use a public waterway or water on private property for recreational purposes if the private property is property to which access is restricted, unless public recreational access is established under that same section, 203. And then it gives you a whole bunch of lines here as to what the new portion they are trying to put into it, which is there is a rebuttable presumption that a stream bed is private property for purpose of access under this chapter. The person claiming that a stream bed is not private property for purposes of access under this chapter has the burden of proof to establish by clear and convincing evidence that the stream bed is 1. Property owned by a federal, state, or local government known to be a navigable water based on the standards set forth in this chapter, or 3. Adjudicated in a court with jurisdiction to be a navigable water. And then it's basically a prescriptive easement for public recreational access. And then it goes into the regular one. That's it. Those are the only changes to that current bill. And so,
It'll be interesting to see what UAC says about it.
yes. So, anyway, that's what goes on if you're interested in going.
It is interesting, those policy meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, UAC is very powerful with the legislature. Something like just
Who
today.
speaks for you? Do they have attorneys or something?
They have lobbyists and attorneys, and Brandy, but they really respect what UAC thinks. I mean, these are voters from all counties, elected officials that affect their voters and what they say. So if a bill is getting ready to go through and we have something we want to change, they'll run up there and say, hey, this is UAC's word.
Really?
And they'll listen to you.
Yeah. Steve Hunter is one of those lobbyists for UAC. If you remember you were there. I think you guys were all there. You weren't. But I think all 3 of us were there at that UAC conference that we had when Bob Hunter came and John Walsh came. The good people. And anyway, that's his son that is the lobbyist for UAC, among other things. He used to work for UAC. So anyway, those are the things. And by the way, also they have two other things that happen every single week if by chance you can make it. One of them is NUC, which is Northern Utah Chamber Coalition, which if you're now over
Which
Chamber,
is in the mid.
that's on Wednesday morning at 7 o'clock. And
We're at.
at the Senate 210, yeah. So, and then there's also the 45 minutes. And they feed you breakfast. So, and then the other one is the Rural Caucus on Friday mornings at 7 o'clock. And that's over in the House of Representatives building in downstairs. And they feed you breakfast. The nice advantage of the NUC one is it's all of our legislators in the northern region, from basically Davis County north. And they're all there. And then the one on Friday morning is mostly all the rural legislators that decide to come. And in each one of them, there's presenters that present different things that they would either like money for or like something to change on. And that's what happens on those mornings. That's Friday mornings at 7. Yeah, we don't have to leave here at 6 anymore. Parking is great at that time of the morning, according to Dad.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
Amen.
Okay, we are dismissed.